All right.
Hello, hello, hello.
Here we are.
In the studio space now.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome to another episode of the Glad Chad podcast.
Please,
as you can see,
have a seat.
Have a seat. Kick up your feet a little bit. I would, but I'm not wearing socks. Mom taught me that one. Rudy, where the heck are we?
Well, we are in my new apartment with Ashley.
Ooh.
So we just moved in
With-
together.
Wait, they're cohabitating.
No. We got married.
Oh, shoot.
Yep.
That's right. When was your day?
We got married on the 20th.
So you've been married for about a week, a little over a week.
Yep.
And she hasn't kicked you out yet.
Not yet.
I'm impressed, admittedly. I know that there are people who are going to tell you that there's happy for you and everything. I just didn't know you were going to make it this far. So well done. I'm surprised.
Gee, thanks, Jordan.
So it's cool. I mean, your apartment looks nice.
Thank you.
We've been spending a lot of time kind of figuring out the feng shui for the show. But honestly, this place just naturally baked in. You have the fireplace here.
Yep.
Your bookshelf with all the good books right there.
Yeah, Ashley and I did a culling the other day because I had a couple in here that I guess they weren't really all that great, and I didn't realize
Was
that.
there any von Balthazar? Is that
No.
what I'm hearing? Was it that Father Do you remember
There was
that?
some really
Do you
bad
remember
ones.
that Uncle Ted McCarrick book that you found the other day?
Yikes.
There's I can't even remember what it's called.
On eBay.
No, that's great though, man. It's good. It's good to be in the space.
Yeah.
Is it feeling like home so far? I mean, 10 days
Is. Yeah, we finally put everything away,
Mhm.
so everything's in its place, and it's starting to feel like kind of lived in. So that's good.
in. Just for the record, I wasn't invited to the wedding, or I was invited, then I was disinvited, then I was invited again, but by then I'd had enough, and I was in Colorado. So
Yeah, it was one of like the craziest experiences. I mean, this whole thing has been crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because of
Yeah.
coronavirus, but about 2 weeks ahead of time, so 2 weeks before the 20th, we heard that that it was going to be a possibility for us to have the wedding, because up until that point, we didn't know that it was even going to be possible to get married. We
Right.
thought we would have to push it farther and farther away. And so our priest who was preparing us, he called us and he said, "Hey, good news! They're opening up the churches.
thank God.
There's some things going on here, so you can actually start planning it." So 2 weeks, we got everything that we needed. We got the choir, we got the photographer, we got everything settled. So it was a really quick process.
And you're only off by what, like a week from your original date, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Now the unfortunate thing is, because of the restrictions, thanks to the governor,
Thank you,
we were
Governor.
only allowed to have a certain amount of people inside of the church, and we were thinking maybe if we got more people, we could do it in the tent, but it was going to be hot, and,
Right,
that
so-
sort of thing. So
I think that you lucked out, honestly, because you got married to the one you love, and you did it for considerably cheaper and more beautiful than
Yeah.
most weddings anywhere, because you still got your high mass, you still got your scola,
It was
you still got all that
gorgeous.
kind of stuff,
it was everything I could have hoped for, because a lot of our family and friends, they're not really religious.
Sure enough.
And so for them to experience the Mass in all of its glory, not just like some Novus Ordo, like nice Mass.
Right.
not-
Like
you
the
know,
real,
but like an actual
the full-
Tridentine Mass
Yeah.
with a Schola, polyphonic choir. And our choir master did like an
Jeez,
incredible
I heard
job.
a snippet from the wedding, and I'm mad again because I feel like if I was there, I might have even had a chance of singing it. But man, I'm so happy for you guys because
Yeah, one of the most obstinate people, they were like, "I cannot believe the choir," and they were ranting and raving about it. So it was great. It was awesome.
you'd have been like, "Yo, this happens every Sunday. If you want to go on and get
You
down."
said that.
And
she said, "I'm still not going."
well, God takes some. We know this about like St. Augustine. I think is a perfect example. Like some people have to come kicking, dragging, and screaming.
Yeah.
But that's how it is. It's a lot of leading with beauty first, and for me, music especially.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. I mean, I'm proud of you guys. Your ring looks really nice.
Thanks. Ashley made it.
I noticed that. That was from Ireland, right?
Yeah, we went to Ireland, and she got to make it for me, and I made her a band at this jewelry shop in Dublin. It was like the only redeeming thing about Dublin.
It's that far gone, huh?
Yeah.
Man, that's good. I'm proud of you. So
Thank
you moved into here. It's a cool space. I know that I know before you can't shop officially anymore without your sweetheart also telling you not to buy the things you've bought before. But you were showing me before the show some kind of cool things that you'd picked up.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I forgot we were going to do that. Yes, I have
It's time
picked
to
up...
play Glad Chat Show and Tell.
Yeah, this is the show and tell section, everybody. Welcome. If you're just tuning in, thanks for tuning in. I have picked up some really nice items. So I really enjoy going online and finding church objects or just Catholic objects that have just been, people don't care about them anymore.
Right.
They're selling them for whatever reason. So I like to go through and find things that
Entire
have
sets
history.
of altar rails.
Yeah, you can find that, by the way. If
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
$5,000, you could buy an altar rail if you wanted. But I picked up some really cool books. So the last two purchases that I had are books. And the first one that I got is... This is going to make a couple of you guys mad. I already know.
Mad trads.
All right. So some of you guys are going to dislike it or maybe unsubscribe. But this is a Gradual Romanum. And it's a book that has all of the different feasts, but the music for the feast.
Ah, yeah.
I don't know if you could see it. I'll bring it closer. So it's just music, right? But what makes this one so interesting is that it comes from a particular time in the church's history, this being 1982. Actually, this book was printed in 1924. But this has a very peculiar history with 1982, and if you guys know what it is, type it in the comments. If you don't know what 1982 was...
The year the world went to pot?
It was the year that in Icon, the SSPX ordinations happened. And this book happens to be signed by Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre. So this is a very rare thing.
Is it heresy or is it not?
So like I said, some of you guys aren't fans of the SSPX or Archbishop Lefebvre.
And some of you are, so.
That's okay. It takes time.
But, it's so true.
It comes with two little prayer cards. And this is actually from, this is St. Pius X. This comes from Icon, from the ordination of a priest there in 1982. And this one is St. Dymphna, but it's a really nice rendition of it.
You know, it's Jen's patron saint.
Yeah.
St. Dymphna is a patron saint of mental illness amongst a lot of other things.
Yeah,
So
yeah. She's a good saint.
Big incest.
So that's the first one. The second one is...
Oh, it's a tome.
This one I didn't get on eBay. It's a little heavy. This is a 1885 Dewey Rheims Haydock Commentary Bible, and if you could see it, it's got embossing on it.
Mm-hmm.
Really gorgeous.
It
embossing.
is fantastically made.
It's in bad shape, so I'm gonna rebind this.
How can something of such perfection be ever in bad shape?
Yeah, I mean, look at this. It's falling apart. But the interesting thing about this is that there's a picture of the family that owned it, and I think this happens to be... it must have been a family that came from the East Coast, or rather like the United Kingdom or that area, because this is printed specifically for that. And it has this really lovely portrait.
So you said this is from 85?
1885.
Yeah.
Has a lovely portrait of
The Holy Father at the time. Yeah, wardrobe malfunction.
the Holy Father at the time, Pope Leo XIII.
Our boy, my boy.
Who is Jordan's patron saint.
Pope Leo XIII was the first saint to ever appear and to bless moving pictures.
Well, he's not a saint yet.
Oh gosh, that's right. You see what I mean? Like, in a world of politics, can't I dream? Anyway. Topical.
Yikes.
The page that fell out, I saw that had a picture of the Madonna and Child on.
It did, yes. So it's got some really lovely plates. I think that's what they're called.
Just look at
Plate
it.
engravings.
Isn't that just fantastic?
So really cool stuff.
I know we're not supposed to envy other people's possessions, but if you do find that missing someday.
They're quite common. And, this is ripped out, so I can just show you.
There we go. Look at that. His Holiness.
This is a dedication. And it says, presented to the... prefixed to the original edition, to that loyal, religious, and enlightened body of men, Catholics of the United Kingdoms of England, Ireland, and Scotland, in admiration of the steady zeal with which they have kept the deposit of faith. Deposit of faith in Old English font.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm working on. And then later on, I think we'll do little video updates to see how the restoration's coming along, but I haven't started yet.
That's right, because you started tinkering on like restoring them instead of just having them, like preservation. Yeah.
This is going to be our family Bible.
That's no envy.
Thick
no
boy.
Envy. Thick boy.
Ashley gets mad at me. She could throw it at me. So anyway, that's our show and tell. Look at this. I mean,
and look, that's 1885. Pope Leo the 13th does. Don't waste it. I was going to say, Pope Leo the 13th is the first pope to bless moving pictures. So there's actually a really, really cool, very short video of him in the late 1800s. Old man he is, but he sits down and he has, some of his entourage
he
around him.
He looks so frail at
that point. And he blesses the camera, and there's audio recording of him chanting the Ave Maria. And it's surreal, but it's fantastic because that's the history of the church in a nutshell. I think this is a perfect segue because even from that little salutation at the very beginning of that Bible, presented to Catholics, loyal Catholics who have kept the deposit of faith, it's like the perfect kind of message for times under fire. Yeah. Which is perfect today because as the video shows, we're kind of at war. There's no better way of saying it. These past...
It's easy to pretend like we're not.
But... It's easy to pretend like we're not because because a lot of our leadership and plenty of lay people pretend that we're not. But for those who don't know what's going on, so for the past, the tail end of these protests and these riots that have been happening across America, and I've been watching this for a while. I remember early when they began, I said, it's not going to be my problem until they start touching churches. And I didn't realize that was kind of not prophetic, but that was a thing that was actually going to happen in way sooner than I expected. What we've been seeing in the past 2-3 weeks is people have gone from erasing American history specifically, no matter what side of the Civil War you were on apparently, to church history directly. And so this includes in San Francisco, this includes in Los Angeles, this includes in all these other places, the toppling of...
Even in Canada.
Canada. Canada just had a case of 6 saints were beheaded. Statues of the saints were beheaded, completely defaced. Here in Los Angeles, in downtown LA across from Union Station, there's something called Father Serra Park, named after Saint Junipero Serra, who is one of the most instrumental saints of California. He founded the mission systems. He was a Franciscan friar who was there to set up the mission systems after the Jesuits got kicked out of Mexico. Very, very holy man, very saintly man, very good at the cultivation and preservation of the Native Americans who were living here in California. Like he brought them into the mission systems. He taught them both the faith and also just like the fruits of civilization, so to speak. So agriculture, cultivation, language, all that kind of stuff. Really holy man, and like really protected them. This is in the latter 1700s. So it's all the more strange why all of a sudden, for the sake of changing history, right, the demonic elements behind those forces, here in California directly, a man who's been so instrumental to the protection of natives is being defaced. And not just defaced, but on the site where they tore down the statue here in Los Angeles, there was also pagan ritual performed on the base itself. So that place is going to need to be probably exorcised again by the proper authorities if they ever decide to do something like that. which unfortunately is a little suspect, unless you're in San Francisco, which is okay.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be the case that here we'll have at least the top end of the leadership really doing anything.
No, in fact, we've been told...
I would be very surprised.
It's very sad because, so again, this is happening here in California. This is happening all over the place. In St. Louis right now, which is named after St. Louis IX, King of France, the only French monarch to ever be a saint, and his biography is incredible. This is a man who treated rich and poor in the light of Christ. His zeal for the faith is unmatched by any other king I've ever seen before. He went on a crusade. I think it was the 7th crusade. He fought the Cathars. He made a bunch of... At his time in France, the Talmud had been translated, and the Christian scholars were like, yep, there are all these extremely heinous errors about Christ inside the Talmud, so he condemned, or his court nobles condemned that in the name of his king. So just an exemplary man of the faith, and both in his political life and his spiritual life. But apparently, he was king just for white people or something. So we've seen that video, right? That priest. Yeah. So you got a clergy with actual cojones But there's a priest so they have all this spray paint on St. Louis's statue, and it's him on a horse. It looks like Aragorn. It's wonderful. And this priest, who is in his long cassock, I don't know, I can't remember the name of this priest or what order he belongs to, if he's diocesan or not, but our kind of priest, right?
Yeah.
Is sitting there with his blowhorn. Do you want to know the history about St. Louis? Do you want to know the history about St. Louis IX, King Louis IX? These protesters are like, yes, no, maybe so. Yeah. But yeah, all over the place. Like, there's no other way of saying it. And so the church is at war. Holy Mother Church is being attacked. It is being attacked by the culture. Is being attacked for the purpose of destroying the legacy of the saints and the legacy of Christ's church. We're seeing it not just in the defacing of statues, but we almost had an attack on a fraternity parish at St. Anne's. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and why are people doing this? It's because apparently especially traditional church or the Catholic Church has promoted for its 2,000-year history a history of barbarism to natives or to anyone non-white, Republican, whatever they want to say, which is so demonstrably false, is evident just anecdotally by the fact that Rudy and I are sitting in a room decrying this, Hispanic, Black. Catholic Church has been pretty good to both of us, if I do say so myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bad straits, all over the place. It's not good.
This is a trend that has continued since the French Revolution. It never died.
Yeah.
In the French Revolution, they sought to take everything of the past and make it bad, strip it away, change its name, whatever. It's exactly the same thing that's happening now. They want to change St. Louis to Flavortown.
Is that really what they said?
I'm pretty sure that. I think if I remember correctly.
Can I have some of that tobacco? I saw you had your pipes in your mouth.
They want to change it to Flavortown. They want to pull down Junipero Serra, one of the most excellent saints that brought Catholicism and Christianity to natives.
Yeah, here to the west.
Improve their life. A man they slander now as a slaver or an abusive. I don't even know what they say.
If they're not, besides the fact that he's Spanish, which is the first problem. They claim that he abused, he was a slaver, that he abused Native Americans, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, that's just so ridiculous because Junipero Serra, in order to take care of the native people who he had a deep admiration for, he walked from California all the way to Mexico City so that he could get the permission of the monarch to take care and punish the people that the Spanish soldiers who were doing
he filled a void. Again, the Jesuits had been kicked out of Mexico. This is one of the times I say in history that the Jesuits have been wrongly suppressed every time, but whenever the next pope finally suppresses them. Sorry, Jesuits. They're my favorite historical order. I love the Jesuits, but seriously, get your acts together. Because the Jesuits would do the same thing. They would interfere in the political makings of the empires here in the New World in regards to native treatment. So you read about the heroisms of the Jesuits, you see it anecdotally in movies like The Mission, you read about the atrocities that occurred in like a destruction of the Indies history by De las Vacas, 200 years even before Junipero Serra. So he's filling a void that God is calling him to do, and that hundreds of priests, a lot of the Jesuit missionaries, whether they're down in California, Mexico, or they're up in the Huron territories, in North America proper, in the Canada, it just was the thing to do, but that's not good enough. So that's why we're erasing it all of a sudden.
This is a really destructive time in history.
Yeah.
I think this is going to go down in the history books for people in the future to see, and maybe they're not as stupid to fall into it again. But I mean, to destroy the past is one of the most absurd things that we're living through right now. I don't understand. I mean, it has to be demonic.
Yeah.
To destroy all of the culture, all of the things that brought us to where we are, to be able to sit on in a couch like this, to live in America, all of that history, and it's being flushed down the toilet.
Well,
for what?
You said it yourself. Since the French Revolution, there's been a trend of taking man and building up whatever we want to do in our own image and likeness. So take the idea of the saints themselves, right? The lives of men conform to Christ's will that now should be an inspiration for all of us. That's what building up that's what having a devotion or naming a city or building a statue to a saint is about. Why are they exemplary men and women? because they conform themselves to Christ's will. But suppose that you strip Christ away from the culture, which is what the French Revolution did, then what are you left with? Well, you build icons to yourself, right? And your people and your heritage, but everything that's not pointing to Christ. And so it's very ironic that it's under the guise of egalitarianism in the worst way, just like the French Revolution, in the worst way possible. But the problem is, like, you look beyond the history just a little bit, and especially in regards to the faith, like, it's the iconoclasms all over again, you know? They're smashing these images because they're graven images, not because they're being worshipped, but because they're representing a sort of history which doesn't gel with that secular, atheistic, materialistic worldview, which is that, you know, the scope of history is tragic. By that I mean to say, at some point, your ancestors probably conquered and were conquered. So the Gauls in France today can't go to the Latins in Italy and get really mad because at one point they had Charlemagne, just as the Latins had Caesar.
How dare you have a statue up?
That's what it is, honestly, and it's like
of the guy who defeated our
great
grandfather.
And again, I'm a historical, like, when I say I'm a historical objectivist, I just mean to say, like, whatever the church's history is, I accept it. Like, if you're gonna die for a tribe, because it's just a resurgence of tribalism, I'm gonna go with the church's hill. I didn't know anything about Junipero Serra before I came out to Los Angeles. Where I come from in Colorado, there aren't really any missions in Colorado, right? So there are other saints that we have devotions to, but it's different here in California. And Catholicism is bled into the land in a really radically beautiful way. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you can go to San Luis Obispo, the fact that you can go to San Fernando, the fact that you can go to San Francisco, all these different mission systems are credited to him. So the ironic thing is that for people who are saying that it's colonialist to prop up a man who set up the mission system, I would say that why don't you stop living by the fruits of that colonialism, which includes cultivation, civilization, down to the Spanish language itself, apparently.
Education.
Everything
that you value as a person.
Everyone wants this.
Everything that's valuable.
Everybody wants this in the garden mentality, right? And you know,
I mean, you saw that in Chop, right?
Yeah.
You know,
oh, do you want to rescue shot in Pache?
Rest in peace. Chop Chaz,
whatever. Capitol Hill occupied zone to occupied protest to.
You know, you see it with that example that they try and make this what's the word, utopiistic, or you know, is that even a word?
Well, it's gonna be a word. Utopian is probably
utopian. They're trying to make this utopian society, and what do you get? I mean, just look at the news. People dying, total disorder.
Well, again, I love how you really did pinpoint it originally to the French Revolution, because what is the idea of the French Revolution? Society and the law, as given throughout all of Christendom at that time, is as an objective nature because it's ordered from God. So you have a king, but your king has a responsibility to God, which means the king has responsibilities to people. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to talk about the nuances of that, but you know what you don't do? You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And one of the Americanisms that I've been shedding a lot this year is the concept of what revolution means against an ordered sort of government. It's different with divine right of kings because there's a responsibility as a Catholic monarch to your people. We've never had that as an American. We rebelled from an Anglican monarch, from a Protestant monarchy into a Protestant republic that's now reaching what I would say is the logical conclusion of Protestantism, which is if I'm going to follow any sort of head, why wouldn't I just follow my own head?
Right.
And so no wonder you have so many people. That's why I'm saying, like, it's godless. And what you see in the setup of Chaz Chop, what you see in the resurgence of paganism. Again, it's not that a statue of Junipero Serra went down. It's that it went down and they performed a pagan ritual. That's something that I never would have expected.
Right.
But we see that. We see the rise of paganism and Wiccanism, and we see the rise of desolation and depression and drug abuse and people who are just so angry, who are victim or wanting to blame the other. There's always another that we have to blame. And what's cool about church history is that it says these men and women that we venerate are from everywhere across the spectrum. Well, the church is Eurocentric. Look at how you draw Jesus. Okay, geniuses. Who is, if you were to ask what Virgin Mary of the Americas looks like, what icon would you go with?
Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I guarantee you, she doesn't look very Eurocentric to me.
No, she doesn't.
You know?
And that's an interesting thing. I want to kind of just rest there for a sec, because that argument I've heard a lot recently. You know, oh, well, we need to have Jesus that looks more I don't know.
Well, they're not saying
More brown or something,
well, they're not
right?
saying more Palestinian first century.
Right.
Because we have Middle Eastern friends. We know what they look like.
But here's the thing, though. There have been many notable apparitions, particularly the apparition to Sister Kowalska,
Yeah.
Divine Mercy.
Yeah.
And she's painting, or she's rather transcribing what Jesus looks like. And guess what, guys? He looks just like the standard image of Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, here, I mean, we have an
I was going to
icon,
point to iconography, yeah.
Byzantine icon of Jesus. And yeah, he looks a little more.
He looks Slavic, Greek, Byzantine to me,
A
though.
little bit more, you know, brown, I guess, but still, like, it's very close to the normal image of Jesus that you see that people have trouble with.
Shroud of Turin.
Shroud
of Turin. It points to what Jesus looks like. Here's my problem, right? And I'll take this personally as a black man. I'm just like,
As a black man?
as a black man, this is how I feel. I feel so attacked. No, this is the problem. There's this revisionism I know very particularly in Afrocentric schools of thought, and essentially it says that everybody of any importance in the world was sub-Saharan African. So here's the problem with that. So I know this because I'm 92% sub-Saharan African. I did my 23andMe. I don't have a drop of northern in me, which surprised me a little bit, because North Africa looks very different, right? North Africa is considerably lighter than sub-Saharan Africa. The most of the Bible interacted with in regards to sub-Saharan Africa was probably Ethiopia, because Ethiopia and Egypt had it was a kingdom of Ascom, which was a very powerful kingdom in its own right, by the way. So if anyone wants to talk about lack of revisionist history and Eurocentrism, no, Ascom was pretty powerful and the world knew it. So Egypt, it's brown, it gets the lighter skin, and then remember that this is post-Alexander the Great's conquest, which means that you have Hellenic influences in the Middle East. And guess what? We now know what the makeups of every culture in the Middle East looks like. It's not far-fetched to think that Jesus was lighter skin, not like Germanic, Gallic white, but wasn't like dark brown like me, with a pretty normal with like straighter kind of facial features and everything. Shroud of Turin, all the way.
Yeah.
Maybe his nose was a little bit bigger, but that's only because we have an Assyrian friend, so we have something for scale. But no, it's revisionist history, and it's one thing to see the church under attack. This has also been a really crazy time for the past 2-3 weeks, because except for some very, very holy notable examples, this is the ladies' war. Apparently it's the ladies' job.
Hey guys, I just got a second job. I didn't know.
What is it, Rudy?
I didn't even know I applied for it.
Do you want to read the tweets? Because I would never have done this if I didn't have to, but I really
love how
do.
You have a picture of Cheems, the Cheems dog, and like a puff dog.
I have a meme. Okay, so let me tell you. So in the 8th century, Saint Boniface would have said, "The church is like a great ship being pounded by the waves of life's different stresses. Our duty is not to abandon ship, but to keep her on her course." Boniface can do that as a bishop. Totally Chad, right? Now, as Catholics, we are natural monarchists. By that I mean to say that Catholics we don't like as laity, I should say, we don't like this idea of not having a leader and having to figure it out ourselves, quote unquote.
Let me pause right there. If you're interested in monarchy, we just did an awesome episode with Charles Coulombe, who is one of the greatest speakers on monarchy. That happens to be Catholic. And we just did that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yes.
So if you want to check that out, just go back into our YouTube page and you can find
literally can't miss it.
Really great episode.
You can also, if you're interested in monarchy, because it's a good plug, there is a book that Charles Coulombe wrote called Star Spangled Crown, which is interesting. It's alternative history / political theory on how a Catholic monarchy particularly, would work if it came to power in the Americas in a very conventional way. It's a brilliant read. I gave you a copy, right?
No, not yet.
Well, good. I got 10,000 copies, so I owe you a copy. But seriously, as Catholics, I call them the great Americanisms. Maybe we'll do an episode on them.
You open your trench coat?
Like, hey,
you want Star Spangled Crown?
Hey, God save the Queen. But there are just a couple of conceptions about government that as Americans and as Catholics, first and foremost, as sons and daughters of the church, we have to shed, because we are a post-Enlightenment, not completely influenced by the French Revolution, but a great amount of influence by the French Revolution sort of nation, and Protestantism on top of it. So one of the things you have to shed, of course, is this understanding that men has to be governed. Not shed. You have to accept is that God gives legitimate authority. We know this from the New Testament. So it's not wrong at all to say that to pray for the return of the king genuinely. And the nature of republicanism, the nature of democracy, distorts the concept of government in a really, really strange way. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, is the death of the republic, because the way that the republic works, like any kingdom works, is that there have to be truths that we hold on to. But the problem is that there isn't. Truths come ultimately from God.
Right.
If you have a country, a peoples who is largely atheistic, who say that truths come from whatever my truth is, right? I speak my truth into existence, that whole sort of mumbo jumbo. Or I can write that these things are truths because they're on a piece of paper which doesn't have any divine authority, like the Constitution, Declaration, those sorts of things. At some point, it's going to fall into itself in the worst way possible.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that now. It's imploding.
Yep.
Not only that, I can speak from a personal perspective, but I think this is a universal ideal, is that we have a longing for leadership from a father figure.
Yeah.
And particularly when we speak about the church is led by priests, and we call them father. And there's a reason why that is. It's because they're meant to lead us.
Yeah.
And up until apparently the Second Vatican Council.
Oh my gosh.
That was their job.
I'm remembering. Yeah. Okay. So let me just read the tweet. So of course, pointing to leaders, there are a few examples that people across the spectrum point to when it comes to leadership. Right. As traditional Catholics, a lot of us really plug up Bishop Athanasius Schneider and Cardinal Raymond Burke. Right. Those are like two, I would say, pretty high.
Cardinal Serra,
Bishop Strickland, now Corleone, Archbishop out of San Francisco. Archbishop Sample out of Portland, Oregon is really great.
Yep.
There's a lot of, even trads I know, right? I think that it's a whole different topic for another day, but there are certainly a lot of Catholics who, and I was certainly one of them, who really looked up to Bishop Barron, Robert Barron, who's here in Los Angeles. He is the auxiliary bishop of Santa Barbara, runs Word on Fire. Everyone should know that one by now. And so I've had the opportunity to ask him to be at some of his seminars, to ask him questions, that sort of thing. And so this one kind of stung personally, but someone asked him online, hey, what is the clergy doing about this? Because we're all getting pummeled out here, and that's literally true.
The context is they were asking what are the clergy doing about all of these people protesting, tearing down the statues, tearing away history. What's going on? You guys have been kind of quiet about this whole thing all along.
Yeah. And so this is the direct quote. It is, "That is the laity's job!" ! You are meant to sanctify the public space. The bishops aren't police officers or politicians or community organizers. Vatican II taught that the secular arena belongs to the laity. Full stop. This is the. I read something on 1 Peter 5 today that about this, and it said, as far as Unite the Clans are concerned, things got frazzled for a second over the Society of Pius X debacle, and this has united all the factions again. So again, apparently, when it comes trouble in the secular arena, it's not. I know why he cites Vatican II. It's not the clergy's job; it's the laity's job.
I love this tweet that I came across in response to this. It was a really good tweet by this random mom, and this is like trad mom goals. She said something like, "The church is the bride, Bishop Barron. Are you saying that the bride has to defend the home?"
Ooh.
And it's just so. She murdered him.
She freaking clapped back. So this is the thing. How do we say this very kindly? Whenever I talk about something the Vatican II did positively, all I think is that it's nice to see in documents a universal call to holiness from the laity. What that doesn't do is that doesn't subdivide, regimentedly mean that the clergy can just relax all of a sudden. And this is another example of this post-Vatican II way of thinking, that there are now these spaces in society where the church ought not tread. And if you're going to tread them, it's not the job of the clergy. No, it's the laity's job to do so. So it's very funny to me that from the secular space, I'm supposed to give my money to Together in Mission every year. But I can't say, it'd be really nice if the Archbishop organized a rosary and exorcised a place because we're fighting pagans in the streets right now. We keep being told to send our kids to Catholic school, keep being told to give to Catholic charities, to support the bishops and all these kind of missions. But when we're asking for what I think is the most legitimate petition a son can ask of his dad.
I mean, this is bare minimum.
This is bare minimum. This is like literally your job description. I've never been that kind of guy who's like, I pay your salary, do your job. But I'm just saying,
look,
like,
man, I don't want to go there, but literally there aren't a lot of masses that are even taking place right now. So
yeah,
I can't imagine you're all that busy.
I can't imagine
for
that
you
you're
to
all
not
that busy.
Come out of your, what's the room? The sacristy, not the sacristy.
And the sacristy.
I'm slipping out of the rectory.
Oh, yeah.
Come out of your rectory, bishop, and lead a rosary or something.
And
go out there with the people who are risking their lives.
That's exactly it. It's like, again, Catholics, we want leaders. That's all we want. We want leadership in our priests, we want leadership in our bishops, we want leaderships in our popes and in everybody. Because that's how literally we're told. We're told about the social kingship of Christ our entire lives. We're told that our priests are our spiritual fathers. Right? This isn't just some like fluffy little metaphor, but this is literal authority that God has given them. So when I say it is like going to dad and dad going, "Oh, don't worry, just figure it's not my problem." That's really what it feels like. And I don't really talk about scandal kind of in like all the time because there's not a lot of things that I feel scandalized by. But it hurts. And so I said, "Okay, Your Excellency, I'll do something about it." So I organized a rosary.
Total Chad right here.
Non nobis Domine, non nobis. Not to me, Lord, but to you the glory, honestly. But I said, okay, well, Catholics got to do something. And I'm mad about this, and I got to do something. So I organized a rosary in Latin at the site where they tore the St. Junipero Serra statue down in downtown LA. And people came out. It was a good conglomeration of people. And a lot more people. We now have over 400 views on the live stream of the rosary on our Instagram page. And it very clearly demonstrates to me that, yeah, you know what? It sucks because I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be the one in the front lines because it's not the lady's job to just charge over gung-ho and the bishop's only to ask for money in the background. But yeah, fine. You want the lady to sanctify the secular area? I'll do it. But here's the caveat. Here's the trade-off. Pure and simple. When I see conversations, and from Bishop Barron I heard a lot, but I see this from other bishops too, talking about engaging the culture and the new evangelization and how we're reclaiming things and how from Catholic schools, from Catholic education, from Catholic faith is going to be a wellspring that flows over the entire culture. I know it's lying. Because before the Second Vatican Council, there was this concept that the church sets the culture. The church binds and looses what's allowable in that kind of culture. And even when the church isn't listened to, like in the time of the French Revolution, the church still has that voice. Which is why Pius X can do something like the Oath Against Modernism. Mm-hmm. Which is why he can decry modernism, which is why the First Vatican Council can deny it. Which is why we can talk about the syllabus of errors. There would be no such thing as a syllabus of errors post-Vatican II. Because the only sin that you can commit is believing that people can commit sins. Honestly. Or apparently that it's the clergy's job to man up a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're at war. And yet again, just like with coronavirus, you can tell our frustration. What's our clergy doing? Nothing.
Mostly nothing.
With some extremely good examples from our priests and from our bishops, obviously. Archbishop Corleone led a rosary and an exorcism at the site.
Sites, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, why can't we do that?
God bless him. Thanks, Dad.
Hey, Archbishop Corleone, if you're watching, can you come down to LA?
We'd love to have you on the podcast,
I mean, it's hard to live through that sort of thing, when you, not to beat a dead horse, with the father example, but it's like coming home and seeing your father just like passed out drunk again on the couch.
Yeah, it's Noah.
And the bills haven't gotten paid, and guess what? You're the one who's going to have to write the check and deliver it and put it in the mail. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're seeing now, where we have to pick up where they have left it off, and we have to pick up the weapons and do our part.
Yeah.
Because it's falling onto our hands.
Did you ever see Silence?
I did see that.
It was a good film up until the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's my review of Silence. Mm-hmm. But I will say that something that's really nice about Silence is that those peasants, the laity, held on to the faith, which it's not to say that as laity we don't have a duty for the preservation of the faith in the secular arena. Of course we do. I'm just saying that it's a both and scenario, not an either or.
Right.
Like, I would never say, well, Father, it's really your job to keep up the sacristy. It's like, you know, we see how great the church ladies do with like the flowers on the altar and stuff. Like, that's our faith. My point being is that in silence, these
You mean like altar decorations?
altar decorations,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I
the
mean.
sacristy is his. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course. Father can keep up the sacristy all he wants, right?
Yeah.
I just mean to say that obviously as laity, we have an obligation,
Of course,
to purify, sanctify, and glorify Holy Mother Church in all regards.
Yeah, even at the end of the Mass, item missa est. You're being
Yeah.
sent out to do that. Right?
That's exactly right.
But you and I can't go out there and do an exorcism.
No.
You and I can't go out there and even though we have a podcast, we don't have the same reach that a bishop does. Look at Bishop Barron. He's got one of the greatest Catholic platforms.
Yeah.
And I mean greatest in the amount of like how much reach he
Reach.
has. Because I'm not really a big fan. But he has massive reach. And it's just so weak sauce, the kind of response that we get out of a bishop like that.
Well, it's very funny to me that, you know, I think
Very sorry.
Oh, ooh, we are being buzzed. There's an intermission. Who forgot to turn off their phone?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. What I was going to say is that, you know, I think back to Fulton J. Sheen all the time because what a perfect example of, at the time especially, and even now, but Fulton J. Sheen really had the audience, a religious clergyman, a bishop no less, having the reach in the secular space. They did. A syndicated show that reached millions of people, obviously on religion, obviously on the Catholic faith, in the secular space.
He was competing with some of the greatest entertainers at the time.
Yeah. Would we say that it was improper for a bishop, to attempt to sanctify a secular space? Should there not have been a lay person on Life is Worth Living?
What a coincidence, Jordan, that most of that happened before Vatican II.
This is my surprise Pikachu face.
I mean, he
Honestly.
continued to have the show after, but, you know.
But look what's happened to. But I think this is the thing. Like when we consider, here's a perfect example. Cardinal Richelieu is not really one of my favorite cardinals of all times. He's a really brilliant statesman, but brilliant in like that. It's pretty cool stuff you're doing.
I'm not familiar with that.
Cardinal Richelieu is like, you ever read Three Musketeers?
No.
He's that okay. Well, Cardinal Richelieu is back in the days. This is in the. For being an amateur historian, correct me if I'm wrong. I terribly apologize. This is in the 17th century.
Going on in chat here.
Yeah, I know, right? 17th century. But Cardinal Richelieu was one of the statesmen for the Sun King, right? Louis the 14th. No, earlier than that. I'm terribly sorry that I'm forgetting this. My point being is that there's a very famous picture of him during, I think, the siege of Toulouse, and he's wearing his cardinal garb, but also this armor. It's like Pope. Here's a better example. I should use this. It's like Pope Julius II, the warrior, or Alexander VI, the warrior pope, right? Like there were popes in history who went to war, and these weren't good, justified wars. I'm completely admitting that. But my point being is that there have been times when the Crusade Wars are even the best example of a good war for clergy to have to kind of step in flock, right? There are plenty of priests who took up arms against an atheistic government who was seeking to suppress and destroy the entirety of Christendom, the entirety of the Catholic faith. And so what we see in the history of the Catholic Church is even though clergy are not the ones who usually take up arms and be in the front lines, and I think that's a completely fine thing, the support that they have for laity doing so has been admirable. You never felt like they were off in their ivory towers doing stuff. And if they were, everyone knew that that was a bad abuse of that bishop's power. But apparently in post-Vatican II time, it's a perfectly acceptable thing for the clergy to not say anything when Pachamamas are worshipped in St. Peter's Basilica.
Hell, they'll even carry it in.
They'll even carry it in.
They'll carry the idol for all the other people.
Don't think I forgot. I never forget, right? And it's perfectly acceptable for pagan rituals to take place at sites that are, I would say, obviously our church history, ergo the church's business, but apparently no, it's a secular space. And the reason I'm harping on this is because for weeks we've been watching these constant attacks. I'm a part of an Instagram organization now that's just called the Catholic Defense League with a chapter in Los Angeles. It's newly formed. It's like a posse. And what's cool about it is all we're going to do is we're going to use the greatest weapons God has ever given us, which is the rosary. It's the only weapon we should be using at this time. And if a site needs to be defended, by that we mean to say like not but really prayed at and made sure people don't destroy the history of the church, I'm prepared to drop what I'm doing and go there. And I encourage, especially if you're a young man who's really getting fed up with this kind of thing, to start doing that kind of thing, because you're not going to get that sort of leadership from the clergy. And, I want to be glad about it. And the only glad thing I can think about is that these evils are happening because the devil is howling. That there are so many graces that are being poured forward with the resurgence of tradition and orthodoxy, that the devil is doing the real physical bits. That's why it's demonic, doing the real physical stuff to really shake us off our faith. But it's also exposing the wolves in sheep clothing. It's exposing which Catholics talk and which Catholics walk.
Right.
And I'm not going to be a Catholic that talks. I'm
that walks.
Well, and
Catholic
talks.
right.
Talks,
Catholic
walks. Right. That talks, money walks. Right. Whatever. I'm not going to be that Catholic.
Well, for all we know, it could be even a moment for us to start hitting the gym again. That's to say spiritually.
Yeah.
Take up those spiritual arms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I just started going to the gym again. That was pretty cool.
Yo, bro, how Chad was that though?
Guys, welcome to the Glad
Trad podcast.
But this could be a serious time where God is asking you to get serious about. Is that a sign?
That really is.
It got brighter. Our little thing just fell off the light. But it could be a time for you to really sit down and look at what's going on outside of your house and say, wow, okay, well, I really need to pick up that rosary, or I need to pick up fasting. I need to pick up all kinds of other spiritual weapons in order to combat this, because we're not at that point where we have to go out and defend, monuments or anything with our lives or with weapons or anything like that. But we may be called to a more spiritual solution at this time, and you might grow a little bit out of it.
But it's also a reminder of Memento Mori, which has been coincidentally the entire theme for the past opening part of the year. We are called to defend Holy Mother Church. And the history of the church does demonstrate that sometimes that does mean physically. We all pray if we're going to have martyrdom, at least it's a white martyrdom. If we're ever going to get, oppressed and suppressed, that really it's only by job and not by our lives. But a time is coming where that just is going to be a possibility. The fact of the matter is they're tearing down statues. We have the new Supreme Court ruling on transgender treatment in the workplace. By that I mean to say that it's now a civil right, which means you can be fired if Adam comes in as Eve one day and you still want to call him Adam or treat him like an Adam.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? I mean, the bishops are telling us, look, this is your arena. But look, Bishop, I could say, for example, with a company, hey man, I really don't agree with what you guys are doing, going along with the mob.
Yeah.
And guess what happens? I could lose my job. I can't do that. I can't. I mean, I just got married, so
got new obligations.
You know what I mean? I can't go out and be effective in the culture because there's all kinds of other things that I need to take care of first. And as a bishop, you don't really have that same responsibility that I do.
Yeah.
You can go out into the world and say certain things that I cannot.
The consequences are considerably lessened.
Or that I can, but there's a considerable risk.
You'll still be a bishop at the end of the day if you go in and say, hey, we're going to do a rosary in front of the statue. Right. Can you imagine if Archbishop Gomez changed himself to like the Junipero Serra statue in San Fernando?
Honestly, I'm really surprised. I mean, look, I don't want to say anything that's too harsh, but the Archbishop wrote a book about the people who came to the Americas to evangelize. Mm-hmm. And this is a book, I mentioned this already, but this is a book that's given to people who are discerning priesthood, which I was a long time ago. And they gave me this book and I read through it and I read about Junipero Serra and how dear he is to the Archbishop.
Yeah.
Where has the Archbishop been? It's almost like he said nothing. This statue of Junipero Serra was taken down like blocks away from where his rectory is.
Yeah, in fact, you can see the Cathedral of the Angels from the park.
Yeah,
it's right there. Yeah, it's like
this is his jurisdiction, and I'm very disappointed.
This is how I feel. I mean, now you know how I feel with Bishop Barron, because again, part of my great admiration for his starting points in particular is that there was not a bishop at the time who was really engaging the YouTube heresies, as they called them. Like, in the comment sections, doing the cool... Like, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And for me, who'd been so into apologetics and wanted to really understand that sort of thing, I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes, because I'm so used to having lay people as my apologists. And so someone who was going to engage the culture that way, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And here's an example where I can't even describe it. They're treating these statues like they're just statues. That's what my biggest thing is that, and this is why we talk about it in that very post-Vatican II way, because they no longer carry great existential and theological meaning behind them. It's just a statue. Mm-hmm. It's just a statue in the secular space. It's your job to do it. And if not, it's no skin off the church's nose, apparently. And where does it begin? Well, soon it becomes, it's not a church. It's not a house of God. It's literally a sanctuary space.
Yeah.
Right? It's a house for the Eucharist. Well, maybe, unless we move it into a side chapel or something.
Come.
Gather. Right? It's a gathering space, worship space. That's what they call it, right?
Come to the feast
of heaven and earth. Come to the table of plenty. By the way, there will be a second collection for Together in Mission. Look, I know that it sounds harsh, but genuinely, I'm beginning to really see the strains of what bad philosophy brings. And, you know, this was something that I didn't think we'd ever really hit, but this year we're seeing it more and more, just the bad fruits that have happened for the past 50, 60 years. And it starts with this genuine idea that the priest is as Christ is priest, prophet, and king, a priest in persona Christi represents Christ in these sorts of ways. And it doesn't mean, again, it's okay that our priests aren't just out there every day when we have the opportunity as laity to have a different sort of schedule. But I want some leadership. I need some leadership, Father. It's dads letting the team down. And so I'm seeing more and more that the priest has been relegated to a community leader. Not even actually, because he says very explicitly that priests actually aren't community leaders. But that's what they do, right? We look at how the priest is treated in the Novus Ordo, and the priest is just a community organizer. He organizes what sacristans and what lectors and what Eucharistic ministers are going to do his thing, and then he can sit back and not do anything.
Right.
And when it comes to prayers, he delegates prayers to the old ladies of the old Spanish ladies of the parish, right?
It's so shameful now that the Holy Father could call a rosary and you tune in and it's not even the Holy Father leading the rosary.
Yeah. Well, remember we had
this is what we're living through now.
We had an interfaith prayer last month. But when Holy Mother Church is being attacked like this, there's no suddenly. Oh no, I'm sorry. You must I apologize, Your Excellencies. The USCCB did write a strongly worded letter, so there is that. So thank you. That'll change everything around.
Arwen says, "Do we get paid?" That's a good question.
Oh my.
Take it up with HR at the Archdiocese.
There was that desire there was that GoFundMe to continue to keep the employment of diocesan workers. So it's only fair that we're considered now.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so this is a somber episode, but I think that there is a note of hope, and I saw this when the Rosary was done, and that's it. There are a lot of Catholics who are spoiling for a proper fight. And by that I mean to say, yeah, you. And it's not just us being young men, meaning that, look, I'm not saying that we're not going to pretend also that it'd be so like, I know us both. You're married now, so you can't have these dreams anymore. But it's nice if St. Anne's was just protested a little bit, and we all just went down there, and someone tried to touch it, and then you know exactly what kind of, and then we were just like, nope, we have a whole defense league. Yeah. But genuinely speaking, Christ, the most powerful weapon that Our Lady's given us, has shown us, right, that Christ shares most, is the Rosary. This is how we're going to beat back this modern scourge of paganism and apostasy and atheism. Oh, I knew it. In the secret. Oh,
here's a secret.
Wait, is that a white Our Lady? Oh no, it's just a regular Our Lady Guadalupe. Oh, phew! For a second there, Senor, I was about to cry.
Oh, whoops! I'm opening it wrong.
Wow, how many times you used it?
This is where I keep my weapon.
That's a good battle rosary.
Here's some ASMR.
That's a good battle rosary, dude. That's actually really tight.
Yep.
Oh man, what is this right here? Oh, it's Fulton J. Sheen.
It's Venerable Fulton Sheen.
That's wonderful.
And here for the centerpiece is Saint John Bosco.
Nice. Good.
So this is the rosary is really important, people.
Yeah.
Ashley and I, now that we're settled in, we're getting into the groove of the daily rosary. So it's very powerful stuff.
Yeah, I need to pick up the slack on the team. So you hear Taylor Marshall say it all the time. If you're not praying your daily rosary, you're letting the army down. And I think that this is a perfect example of our call to holiness. Again, it is the laity's job to an extent to really have a preservation of the faith in the arenas that we do govern. We'd like some leadership on it, but my point being is that means that it's all the more times to cherish what Holy Mother Church really holds. And also just on a pragmatic scale, if your priest is doing something good about this, if Archbishop Corleone is doing something really good about this, you gotta let your clergymen know. You gotta let them know that there's an incentive of backing them up. If they get thrown in prison, we're all going in with them. That's what I've always thought. If Dad gets thrown into prison, because all the coolest people are in prison, then I'm going. I'll be like, we're all gonna be right beside him.
Gang, gang,
gang, gang.
We join that gang, Catholic gang.
Oh shoot,
Anthony, if you're watching.
Anthony, you're watching. We got you.
Gang, gang.
Now, I think the whole episode's been pretty without need for a mad trad section. But are you mad about anything in particular that you haven't shared with the class already?
Am I mad about something? I'm always mad about something. But no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
I hope that they don't rename St. Louis to Flavortown.
That would be asinine.
Although that would be kind of cool in a movie or something.
Welcome to Flavortown.
Flavor.
Not that one. You know why they're calling it Flavortown?
Wait, why are they calling it Flavortown?
For Guy Fieri.
Oh.
You know Guy Fieri, right?
Yeah, I know Guy Fieri.
Yeah. They want to build a monument to Guy Fieri because he's from St. Louis.
I think you mean Flavortown.
Yeah, he's from Flavortown.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Shoot.
How about Gladtradville?
You know what? Honestly, that's probably going to have to be the name of the compound. I just went on a little...
That should be my Wi-Fi network.
The young adult group that we're a part of, Rudy didn't come because he was all married and cool. But we went to Kernville, which is Northern California, 2 hours out of Los Angeles. It's essentially...
Beautiful place.
It's Elizabeth, Colorado that's a little bit more dry and a little bit more Western, like touristy Western. Really
Rootin'
beautiful place.
And tootin'.
Rootin', tootin', and shootin'. It really felt like being back home. I've decided that's where we have to build the compound when when the remnant has to really show itself.
Into the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Just
That'd
like they have abandoned coal mines and stuff up there.
Oh yeah,
you
I
know
love
what
that
mean?
area.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
If I could, I would live there.
All right. Well, hey, you can. I mean, you're gonna get kicked out of here anyway, right?
Yeah, probably.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, we talked about the episode we did prior with Charles Colomb on Catholic monarchy. That is one of our finest dishes we've done.
He's also the first guest that we've had on the show, and he's an incredible guy. Spent a lot of time with us. Thank you, Charles, if you're watching.
That's right.
You can check that out if you go into our YouTube page. We also have a new Instagram page.
It's popping too.
It's popping. We have a little bit more of a daily content if you're looking for that. And what else do we got going on?
You can still find us, as you know, on here on YouTube. Just click the thing right down there. But you really can find us literally everywhere a podcast is. In fact, now I'm so happy. If you just type in Glad Trad Podcast on Google, we're like the first results and we start scrolling. We have a Twitter as well, of course. You can find us on Buzzsprout, which is our main website host for our podcasts. All that kind of good jazz. Anything fun from chat to say? Chat, do you want to say hello? I see that there's some friends. Hello.
Hello, friends. Hello everybody.
Friends.
Let's see here from Beth. I saw on the St. Vitus site that the toppled statue from Serra Park is safe. It's being repaired and it will be placed back in the park when racial tensions end. It's probably never.
Never. Not here in America. Yes, Beth, that's absolutely right. And I forgot to mention, this is actual news that came out last week. One of the preservation societies has confirmed that, don't worry, the statue will be repaired and restored at a time that is deemed fit, whenever that is. We're going to pray to God that that's very soon. I think we should just put it up and have a good old brawl. I think we should just settle this crusade once and for all, but that's just me.
Bring the pitchfork.
The torches, the found footage camera, all that kind of stuff.
We'll bring that couple from wherever they were that had the people break into their house.
Oh gosh, right. Oh my gosh,
they'll be there, but not them.
They need
because
so
they're
much firearm
apparently
training.
they're Democrats. So
Yeah.
we'll have somebody similar to that.
It's a little Trumpian dude.
More Catholic.
There'll be way more guns. There'll be way more gun knowledgeable too, because that was just a train wreck.
Very bad trigger discipline was horrible.
Horrible. There's also, so real quick, in San Fernando, there's a Junipero Serra statue that it was going to be vandalized. I think they got paint on it, but a lot of prayer warriors came and actually held off the people, and it dispersed really, really well.
In Ventura too.
Yeah. I'll try in Ventura too. Yeah.
Ventura is pretty based.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're in Ventura, because I think some of the places are going to close down again. Thank you.
Right.
Actually, fun story before I tell you that. Now, I'll tell you about Ventura first. Ventura, if you're out there, there's a great Irish restaurant called Dargan's. Go there. It is incredible, delicious, so good. Now, the other story is that before we started filming, Jordan and I went on an adventure, a side quest, if you will, to go pick up a tripod that I forgot in my old apartment. And on our way back, I said, Jordan, I would love a tasty beverage right now.
I want a Red Bull, Jordan. That's all I
would
want.
love a Red Bull. So I said, if you turn here, I'm pretty sure there's a 7-Eleven. I'm 90% sure. So he makes the turn. There it is, 7-Eleven. Walk in, and I'm like, oh, snap. I forgot my mask.
So what
Has this happened to you guys? You get out of your car, you go up to the store, and then you realize, oh no, I don't have the mask. So then you go back to the car, and guess what? There's no mask there. So what we did was we did this. So we look like idiots coming into the store like this, right? And I'm in the back already at this point. I'm like grabbing the Red Bull. I pick up some goldfish.
Yeah, you got farther than I did. I walked in.
Jordan walks in. The lady's like, sorry, so you have to wear a mask. And it's like, dude, I'm literally covering my face. Like, what do you want from me, right? Mm-hmm. And I go up to the register. I have my Red Bull and my snacky. And I put it down. And she's like, you have to have a mask. And I'm like, I'm literally doing this. You're really not going to ring me up. And she said, no. So I look like a total idiot, and I left it there.
More so than usual, that is to say.
Yeah, more so. Thank you, Jordan.
Oh, I love you, buddy.
Thanks.
You know that. So what's funny is I want to make you jealous. In Colorado, shout out to my favorite place in the world, until our governor, who's not very good, decides to shut us up again. Pretty much masks don't exist anymore, at least in the countryside where I'm from. And in Kernville, fun fact, like my boy, it doesn't exist in Kernville too. Oh. All the more reason to build the St. Vitus. The St. Vitus Brigade will move out there when they try to burn San Fernando down.
St. Vitus Boys 13.
St. Vitus Boys 13. Shout out to the boys. All right, guys. Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You know where all of our rest of our content is. We appreciate it if you would to like, subscribe, and to share this video far and wide with anybody, any Catholic who really needs to hear it. And we will see you on the next one really, really soon. God bless you and Mary keep you. Adios.
See ya. All right.